Hey gang, welcome back to the shop. Just a quick video to show you a technique that I discovered somewhat by accident as an alteration to a technique that I've been using for years. This little alteration, this little addition, should make the technique a bit more versatile, more usable, and it's real easy to do. But before we get into that, I'd like to address one of you guys personally, Bill Goodwin. You had contacted me through my website asking about the song that appears in episode 7 of the Whaleboat series, The Ballad of John Tabor, asking if that particular song was available commercially. It isn't. It's an old song that my wife and I wrote about 30 years ago. However, I took the file and I put it on Dropbox. And if you contact me again through my website, and I'm asking you to do this again because when I wrote back to you, I don't think my emails got back to you. There might have been a mistake in your email address, perhaps, or I could have ended up in your spam folder, one or the other. Anyhow, if you still are interested in having a file of that song, contact me through my website again. Double check your email just to make sure you got it right, because it's the only means I have to get in touch with you. So if you've got a letter or a number, I'm not going to be able to get in touch with you. So do me a favor, try it again, and we'll see if we can get you a copy of the song. And that also goes for anybody who wants a copy of that song. You're absolutely welcome to it. Just contact me through the Contact Me page of my website, tjloria.com, and I'll be happy to send you the link. So, on to today's video. Many of us have struggled with this problem. Some folks may not put any finish on their model's natural wood elements, but they find the dull and lifeless appearance less than they hope for. Others might try a film finish, like varnish or shellac or urethane, but that often goes too far in the opposite direction, making the piece look like it was encased in plastic. And dust particles always seem to find their way into the wet finish. In both cases, the result, aside from being unsatisfying, is out of scale and distracting to the eye. There has to be something between these two extremes. Well, there is, and it's a technique that I've been using for a lot of years now. It's very simple to do, and the effect is scalable. And speaking of scale, let's just stay with this model for a second or two. Now, I would draw your attention to the heavy whale just above the waterline. Now, aside from having a bit too much varnish on the whole model, the builder chose to use mahogany for the whale. This model was built to a scale of a 1/16 of an inch equals 1 foot. That's pretty small. I mean, the whole hull is only 10 inches long. So in that whale, each feature of the grain structure is about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch long. That would mean those features would be somewhere around 1 to 2 feet in real life. I couldn't imagine a tree could stand with that kind of a growth pattern, much less be usable as ship's lumber. Now, admittedly, this is me picking nits on what is otherwise really a very nicely done model. But remember that a model's effectiveness at portraying its subject is directly related to the ability of the builder to render individual details as accurately as possible. If you apply something to your model, whether it be technique or detail, that takes your viewer's eye, or your own eye, out of that little bubble of alternate reality you are trying so hard to create, you may have to rethink its use. But enough prattling on. Let's get on to the technique. Now, I was building a 1/48 scale model of a Beetle catboat, and I was working on the cockpit combings. Here's a shot of an actual boat so you can see what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. Now, to simulate the red oak used in the real boat, I start with a piece of white holly that I've prepared to almost the correct sizes of 6 inches wide by a ½ inch thick. Now the 6-inch wide part, that's easy. It's 1/8 of an inch in the scale I was working in. It's the ½ inch part that's tough. Now, at this scale, that ½ inch is between 10 and 11 thousandths. And it's not even that it's all that hard to get the stock down to that thin. It really isn't. The problem for me is how practical is it going to be to handle, treat, and install something so flimsy, when by just adding 2 or 3 thousandths to its thickness will give the piece enough substance to stand up to the work. And there are times when adding a small bit of material would make an important difference in the appearance, but really, this isn't one of them. So now that I've got the piece down to the size I want, the next thing is to color it. As you've seen me do in other videos, I'm staining the wood with some raw sienna artist's acrylic. I've thinned it down with just plain old water, and you're going to see me give the piece a good slathering on both sides. And this might seem a little bit excessive, but because the paint is now thinned down to act more like a stain, it's necessary, and about 95% of that will be wiped off, leaving just a little bit of color. The nice thing about using these acrylics is the way they are so controllable. Now, unlike solvent or oil-based stains, these colors don't penetrate so deeply into the wood. Thereby, you run very little risk of making it too dark on the first pass. And after about a minute or so, I wipe off the excess, and then I give it about 20 minutes to dry. If I'm in a hurry, when am I not, I'll use a hairdryer to speed things up. Here I'm starting to burnish the combing a bit with a piece of paper towel. This does a couple of things for us. One is the water-based acrylics will have raised the fibers of the wood, leaving things a bit on the furry side. The burnishing gets rid of that. And the second thing it does for us is buff the surface of the stained wood, giving it a subtle but definitely noticeable sheen. Now you can take this as far as you feel you need to in order to get the effect you want, and that's the scalable part. And it was at about this point when I decided I wanted just a little more shine. But, being in a hurry, when am I not, I was unwilling to spend the time to do this by hand. There must be a faster way. Well, yes, there is. If you have something in your arsenal that looks like any of these, and a few of these things which you thought were always useless, well, I'm here to tell you, friends, you got the keys to the highway. Now, these felt discs, I was never quite sure what to do with them, but I couldn't bring myself to throw them out either. Dremel must have gotten a deal on them because they always include an obnoxious number of them in their toolbit accessories. This is only a fraction of what I've been able to collect over the years. So, starting with a clean disc, and I do prefer the smaller ones, as you'll see here, I put it on a screw-on mandrel, and I just start buffing. And you can also see here that the effect is immediate. It flattens the surface and puts a noticeable, really noticeable shine on it. So you have to control that too. This combing is going to be seen from both sides, so the interior surface needs this attention as well. And the added bonus, if you do this on an anvil or some other type of round mandrel kind of thing, it will start to curl the piece around for you. For a model of a beetle cat, that's no small advantage. Now, when I discovered this buffing of the wood this way would act as a forming tool, I was beside myself. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of easily amused. But this could easily translate to other aspects of model building, like head rails or hair rails on older ships. Transom moldings and shear strakes could all be made and installed with much less stress on the piece if they can be made to conform naturally to the ship's contours. And there you have it. I hope you found this little trek useful, and I hope you'll stick around for part 8 of the whaleboat series. That'll be out soon, I promise. And looking ahead to the new year, I may interrupt that whaleboat series to bring you a small series dealing with a restoration I think you might find interesting. So, until I see you guys again, stay well, stay safe. Remember to treat each other nicely. Now, break's over. Get back in the shop.